it takes so much preparation and so much confidence and so much natural ability to make someone feel something. It takes a long time to hone those skills because when you're on a music station, it is now down to like, you've got 2 minutes to talk. How are you going to get everything out? And what do you want people to feel at the end of this? If you're doing a story that is funny, you want people to feel enlightened on their way to work. You want people to feel funny. Yeah. So how do you get there in 2 minutes? You know, the thought process that goes behind it. So I feel like when I was doing the difficult stuff, it led to the skills to do what I can do now. And you have to do it. Yeah. There's so many people that want to just jump in and go like, wow, what a sexy position what a cool thing to say you do. Don't think that you're going to jump in and just be a part of something that big, because you have to take the time and you have to honor the process a little bit to get the skills, because you don't want to fail.
Hi, welcome to the Empowered Woman Podcast. This is a place for you to learn from inspiring women how to empower yourself through self-love. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is martaspirk, and I'm your host, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. On this episode, I talked to radio morning show host, podcaster, and mom, TRACY DIXON. She shares how she got started in the entertainment industry, coming from a small town in Minnesota to Denver, and how she hopes to be inspiring and bringing joy to everyone with what she does. Let's get right to it. Hi, Tracy. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi. Thank you. I'm excited.
I know. I am too. Just so excited that you accepted it right off the bat. We connected on Instagram, and of course, I'll have you introduce yourself and say exactly who you are and what you do. But I've been listening to you for a while, and it's just super starstruck and amazing to be here in the studios too and see how everything happens besides just listening, right?
Yeah, that's very sweet. Thank you. I'm flattered. I'm TRACY DIXON. I host the KYGO morning show here in Denver, and it's sweet. I love when people connect on Instagram. I feel like it's such a barrier breakdown, and it's such a quick way for people to connect. And I really do read the comments, and I really do read DMs and everything. And I mean, we connected right away. So thanks for asking me. This is flattering.
Of course. No, I'm so excited. And just when we were talking a little bit before about what we could talk about, and of course, I just want to learn more about how you got started in the industry, and of course, how you feel. You've shared a little bit more about being a woman in this industry and things that I think people would never know unless they are in the industry. So that's why I am genuinely curious and interested in learning more about how you got into this. You said you lived, are you from Minnesota?
I'm from Minnesota, a very tiny, small farm town, and like 400 people. Okay. Small farm town. And truly, I'm not joking when I say that I was related to half of them at least.
Oh my gosh.
Because my mom's family was from there, my dad's family was from there, and so then and then you're in Minnesota, so it's cold, so everybody just has babies. That's what in my family at least. So I didn't hear personality-based radio until we moved to Minneapolis when, the town was so small that like jobs were an issue at some point. And so my dad started working for the post office, and we moved to Minneapolis, and I heard a morning show, and I swear I was getting ready for school and I was riding a school bus. I'd never even seen a school bus before.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, that is so much fun. And I was always kind of a class clown in a way, a little bit, but I liked attention, and I liked to make people feel good. I liked to make people laugh and all of that. So when I heard personality-based radio, from that moment on, fell in love with it.
So early on, and you said you were how
I was
old?
like 11, and I remember calling radio stations before I could drive and asking if I could intern and things. Wow. And so when I got my license, it was the first thing I did was started interning at a radio station.
So like a lifelong thing. Yeah. And you've been doing that ever since, how it all started as a career then, like professional wise. Tell us more how you got into it.
So after I got some hands-on experience from 16 on, I kept asking them, like, how do I get in the industry? And it's kind of hard to break into sometimes. And I went to a broadcasting school, it was like a 9-month thing, which is basically, I was kind of like going into that school to have job placement. Ironically, my first job placement was in the town that I grew up in.
Oh, wow.
So that little like radio station that they had that did the farm markets and everything, I went and I worked there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I wrote obituary reports.
Oh, my goodness.
And I wrote like all the news stories, and I did this news story. I'll never forget it. And I was so nervous because I wanted to do it perfectly. And it was about snowplows. How the city got a new snowplow, and I was like covering it. It was like a really big deal for me. And but that is when you like learn how to interview. Because if you want to know a tough interview, go interview a snowplow driver in a town of 400 people. He's like, well, we got a new plow.
Okay.
So that's good. That's
a hard interview.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you just tell me everything. So I kind of started just by that, and then worked my way up. I got a morning show at a really small station in Minnesota. From that point, I stayed there for, I think, like 12 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I got married and had my children there. And I hold such a special place in my heart for that station and that community still. I went to Madison, Wisconsin only for about 18 months, and then I ended up in Denver.
Okay. So how long have you been in the KYGO morning show?
It'll be 7 years this summer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
It is a long time in this business.
Yeah.
It's a really long time.
And obviously you love it.
I do. I really love it.
What I'm assuming it was a big change from going into, from a smaller town, covering those types of stories into like the music and the entertainment industry. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it was much more where I was, it was much more natural for me to do. So it was harder for me to be a part of something that I didn't know, you know? Even though I grew up there, I wasn't, I was in it for the personality. So it was almost like frustrating in a way. But now I look back and I learned more doing things like that than I did and just jumping into music, you know?
Okay.
Because it's the one thing that's not understood about this, which shouldn't be, because you're not thinking about someone else's career, you know, is it takes so much preparation and so much confidence and so much natural ability to make someone feel something. It takes a long time to hone those skills because when you're on a music station, it is now down to like, you've got 2 minutes to talk. How are you going to get everything out? And what do you want people to feel at the end of this? If you're doing a story that is funny, you want people to feel enlightened on their way to work. You want people to feel funny. Yeah. So how do you get there in 2 minutes? You know, the thought process that goes behind it. So I feel like when I was doing the difficult stuff, it led to the skills to do what I can do now. And you have to do it.
Yeah.
There's so many people that want to just jump in and go like, wow, what a sexy position what a cool thing to say you do. Don't think that you're going to jump in and just be a part of something that big, because you have to take the time and you have to honor the process a little bit to get the skills, because you don't want to fail. You know, you don't want to fail, and then you're going to feel like you didn't do what you wanted to do or accomplish what you wanted to do. So take the time to hone those skills and just embrace that. Yeah.
No, it's all growth and lessons learned, right? Experience. So what does a typical day look like? Monday through Friday, that's when you're on the show.
Yeah.
How does that all work?
It is getting up for our show goes from 6 to 10. I get up at, I want to say like, maybe like 4, around 4. And I'm one that like, I'll read in bed until the very last second that I have to get up, and then I'll come into work and I will get here like 10 minutes before the show starts. Sometimes maybe 5. But I prep that way. I work, you know, Guy is my co-host. He gets here a lot earlier than I do, gets out of bed first and does all the reading here. When the show is done, we will spend the rest of the day communicating and sending stories, and I think we should do, you know, I think we should do this story at this time, or, you know, if I send a story and he's like, I'm not really sure where you want to go with this, like, oh, I've got an idea for this. So we communicate. He's probably the person I communicate with the most, like, including my family. I probably still communicate with Guy more, because we leave here with the show kind of planned out as to what we're going to talk about. It's never scripted.
Okay.
Ever scripted. It's always live. We regroup in the afternoon and make adjustments. We regroup in the morning and make adjustments, and then we make adjustments on the fly sometimes too.
Okay, so it's like the day before when you're talking about, it's nothing planned, and it's all by you two. Yep. Nobody else is kind of giving you the ideas, or I mean, some ideas, but the whole thing is just you two.
It's just us.
That's so cool.
And I think that's important too, because the things that we talk about, we have to have an opinion on it. And when you are doing when you're doing this, we are personality-based radio. We are not the news. You know, our job is to take a side on something.
Right.
And so that can lead to some people being upset or, oh, I hate them on the radio. I can't stand that person, whatever it may be. But the number one thing that we do not do is be mushy middle about anything, because that's not entertaining, or that's not something that you can glom onto. If you just listen to somebody that was like, oh, I mean, it's okay, whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like whatever Kardashian is doing, whatever, like, oh, whatever, they're boring anyway. And you're like, no, like, say something. Whether you love them or hate them, like, have an opinion on something that you are confident enough to say, whether people like it or hate it. At least they're having a moment with you and listening to what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, and that's so interesting to compare between the news and what you do, because it's completely different, and having that opinion. And is that something that you feel like it took you a while to warm up to, or have you always been very opinionated, no problem, speaking your mind?
I was so passive as a child.
Okay.
So passive. And almost like in that little farm town, it was almost like kids are kind of seen and not heard. There's a little bit of that too.
Okay.
You know, so opinionated children were not, that wasn't part of it. It took me a really long time. And it took me some things happening in my career that I look back at as some of the more negative moments of being in the entertainment business. But now, as I mature, I look at those and how I evolved from them. So instead of looking at the actual act that happened or the disrespect that may or may not have happened, I take that and go, how I handled it has brought me to where I am, which is unafraid to say what I feel. Handling it in a respectful way.
Right.
You know, treating people with the respect that I want. But some people, when you do say what you want, it still feels very bold to them.
Yeah.
And it really shouldn't. If you handle it respectfully, you know, it really shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, agree to disagree, right?
Right.
And I feel like there's a lot of that right now with, like, freedom of speech, whatever, but then you can't say what you want, and then it's not freedom of speech anymore, so it's kind of a gray area there.
Right.
But I appreciate that you guys really take a stand, and sometimes even between the two of you, you disagree too.
Most
and that's kind of and that's kind of fun to hear, because it's like you're still working, you're still doing this every single day, and that's just part of life. You don't have to agree on everything.
Yeah, I can honestly say, truly, that he and I have never left a show mad at each other. We've never left a break, because if we leave a break mad or uncomfortable, everybody listening feels mad or uncomfortable. And that's irresponsible on our part.
Yeah, that's
true. So we've built a lot of trust, and I've gone through partners in my career, you know, and you don't, it's like an arranged marriage, which is really interesting to think of it, because you're put in this room with somebody, and then you have to bond and you have to have chemistry, but he and I couldn't be more different and our upbringing and all that. But then yet we do agree on a lot of things. And he's one of my favorite human beings in the entire world. The personality is incredible with him. And we don't have to try to not be mad at each other, because we both trust each other to not take someone to a point that's going to get him there.
Yeah.
He could if he wanted, and I could if I wanted. Right. But, like, what a terrible thing to do to somebody.
Yeah,
like,
makes no sense.
You know, we all have faults that we don't want people to necessarily see. But I will say with us is we're pretty open on the show about talking about who we really are as people. And that's allowed, I think that's allowed listeners to feel like they know us. And hopefully the message they get from that is that everybody's just human, and we shouldn't judge somebody. We should just listen to what their story is, because we all have insecurities or things that we've done that we regret. And, you know, like, I'm not a perfect mom by any means. I've screwed up so many times. It makes my heart break when I think about it sometimes, you know, on things I could have done better with my kids, especially. We talk about those because it's real.
Yeah. No, and I really appreciate that, because that's the sensation that I have, because driving my kids to school and then driving to work and listening to you guys, it's just like, you know, friends over there just discussing things, and I'm just listening in and just being very real and authentic. And that's something that I feel like it's missing a lot. Like, it's supposed to be what it is in social media, but it's actually not, with you know, not being authentic and just creating a mask and a persona. But the fact that you guys make it a point to be real and voice your opinions, I feel like that's really cool, and that's what brings people closer and want to listen to your show, right?
Yeah, and it's so nice when someone comes up and says, "Oh, I heard you talking about this," and then it's something that we may have forgotten that we, you know, because we do this every day, and we do these shows, and we spend 7 years of doing, you know. And when they have a moment with you where they connect, it's like, I might not even remember saying that, but thank you. I'm so glad that you did, because we're just trying to put out our real lives.
Yeah.
You know, we'll get into it. We'll talk about how, you know, I went to marriage counseling once, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And it was like, and we'll get into it. There's certain things that obviously I don't, you know, and that's okay too. And that's where the barrier is up.
Yeah.
I think that when it comes to when people connect with me, the one thing I do draw a hard line on is if somebody makes an opinion of a child, one of my children, then it's you're excused from the show. I'm not engaging in this in any way. If someone says maybe your kid's a brat and needs a spanking or whatever, maybe it's nope, you're done, you're off. You can't do that. I'll talk about things openly, but you cannot ever judge one of my children. That's, I guess, where I put a really hard line.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, how you handle the people that call in that are kind of nasty, because I've heard a few, and usually you guys handle it really well, but like hearing directly from you, well, you just gave an example, but in general, I mean, it's pretty easy to just be like, all right, whatever, hang up.
Yeah, we like to air those just as much, because they're feeling something that gave them that feeling on the show. They're just as welcome to be on the show as anybody else. And I think that when we do expose that and we do show that, we're not just saying, hey, everything is perfect here and this conversation was all fun. If somebody's really mad at us about something, they have just as much right. And then, I mean, to be honest, when we do put someone on like that and they do get to a place that can be angry or disagree or mean-spirited, when there's an opportunity to show that this is how we can agree to disagree. There's an opportunity to show a classy way to handle a situation. Hey, we appreciate you listening to the show.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you felt that way. I do not apologize for my opinion on that. You're welcome to call anytime.
Yeah.
You know, again, the only thing is there'd be a real hard line if it ever crossed the line with something about my kids. You know, there was a woman that called one time, and I was talking about my son, and he really wanted a certain kind of birthday cake, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I don't know if you remember this one. Okay. This one was like, geez. And he wanted a Fortnite birthday cake. This was last year, and I couldn't find one anywhere. And I was talking about how I found a bakery that would do it, but she wanted, I think, $80 for a birthday cake, for 10 pieces of cake. And I was like, there's no way I could do it. And this one woman called, and she goes, I'm sure you went out and got your hair done and your nails done, and, you know, how about you give something to your kid and not be so selfish, and like all of this crazy stuff. Because I chose to make him a cake, and I was talking about it, and I like cut out the letters like Fortnite on a logo. And instead of seeing how a mom tries to do her best with the means that she has, took it the other way and saw me as this like mom that only spends money on myself. And I'm like, you're wrong. What you're missing here is I don't have money to spend on anything usually, because I am a mom.
Yeah. And I really appreciate the stories about the kids too, because my kids are younger. Yeah. And so hearing the perspective of, you know, I have boys too, them being a little bit older, and the tales that you tell, I'm like, yeah, I understand that. And it's probably going to be more intense like that once the kids are old.
They're a trip, man. One is 17. I can't even believe I say that. One is 17, one is 14, and one is 10, just turned 10. And it goes by, you know, if you've, how old are yours?
Well, I actually have triplets, and they turned 4 last week. So I'm in the thick of the toddler stage, but the boys are like driving me crazy. And you have 3 boys.
It's all boys.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's a lot of large motor skills. It's just loud and fights and all of that, but they're so great. They're so great. Well, that's cool that you have triplets.
Yes.
Wow.
That's an interesting detail there.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk more about like the industry, and especially because we were talking before and trying to schedule this, and you said, no, I'm going to be in Nashville, and it's like, how cool is it that you get to travel and participate in the awards and get together with the singers and the celebrities? How is that? How has that been? Because I feel like for people that are not in that, when they look, you know, from the outside in, they have a specific perspective, but listening to someone that is living that, I would love to know how that has been, especially progressing from not being in this and then getting into this and now being into this for years.
I think the country artists are the most genuine artists that you will find, and I've had so many great experiences with them. They're incredibly open with their fans. They're incredibly open with radio. You know, there's not a week that goes by that we're not doing an interview. And they're not always in person. That's a couple of times a year, usually on the phone. But when you get to a point where I can say now, and it's not name dropping, I want you to know that, but I can say now that the artist will know you. And they do care. And it's like, there's artists that will ask you about your kids.
Oh, wow.
You know, Dirk Bentley the other day is like, when did you get that tattoo? And the fact that like we've seen each other enough that you're like, oh, that you didn't have that tattoo before. They're engaged. They look at this as their passion, but they look at it as a career too, and a business. And their songs mean a lot to people.
Right.
And their stories mean a lot to people.
Yeah.
They're unafraid to be themselves too. There's and I wouldn't get into it because I wouldn't. But there's maybe one or two instances in 20 years. That I can say, like, yeah, they're not, you know, but they don't really like to be interviewed, and they're not always the most open or the most friendly. Everyone else is absolutely incredible.
That's awesome.
And I love this industry because it's storytelling, even in the songs.
Yeah.
And I think that's just who they really are. They're all super real people.
Yeah. And that's what draws me, because I'm not like farm girl at all. I was born I'm actually from Brazil, but I was born in big city, and I'm used to big cities, and whenever I go downtown Denver, it's like, oh, I'm at home. Yeah. But I like, you know, the small town. My husband's from small town Nebraska, so, you know, I like the other stuff because it's not what I grew up with, but I love music, and I love the storytelling. Like, there's something, it's not just, yeah. When you hear other types of music, it's real talent, right? And it's, you know, that touches you deep in your soul, like, because you can relate to that story at some point in your life, or you know someone that's been through that. Right. So I really love that, and it's nice to know that the singers and the artists are as nice as you would hear in the song, because that doesn't always happen when you think about actors and things like that, which everyone is, they're people, and, you know, they have their human side, but that's cool to know. Right.
Yeah, I'm glad that I'm not on that side, because music, they're creative personalities. So they're just, I feel like with creative personalities, they're just a little bit more open, you know?
Yeah, or at least you would hope they would be.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So tell us more about, like, being a woman, because that was one of the things that we talked about before that I wanted, after you told your story and all the things, to focus on, is, like, how your perception of yourself has changed, and especially, you know, being a mom, being a wife, and working in an industry that I would say is mostly dominated by men.
Yeah.
Most industries are. But tell us more about how this process has been.
So I was really grateful looking back now. I didn't know it at the time, but when I started in radio to where it is now, it was kind of the evolution of women in this business. When I first started interning, it was girls were the third person on the show that just laughed at the jokes. Truly. Like, it was, and then shows were named the two guys' names, and then the girl was on the show. And I say girl because they weren't standing up from a woman's point of view. They were giggling at what the men had to say. So when I first got into it is when all of a sudden women were getting a bigger role on the show. It was male and female shows that were a little bit bigger now, because women definitely are the biggest demographic with radio. Women are the biggest listeners of radio. Wow. So all of a sudden somebody figured out that, oh my gosh, if we're targeting all these women, we should maybe have somebody that's representing that opinion on the show. You know? And from the time I started to where I am now, that is where radio is, where now I'm really proud of the fact that it is a female anchored show, you know, and it's a different show. It's not two men that are going back and forth, and she occasionally just chimes in with something, or they make a sex joke and oh, stop, you boys are such trouble, blah, blah, whatever it may be. That's not what it is at all. It's two people on the show that have very different upbringings, very different lives, and we've somehow cut through, and it's because we're telling stories that are relatable. We're telling stories where people can say, that's exactly how I feel, and a woman can speak her point without being ashamed of it. Yeah. You know, and it's being heard, I think. You know, I don't go on and, like, fly the flag of, like, you know, I'm a woman and you have to listen to this. I just tell my story.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because that's one of the things with me, like working with women empowerment and things like that. Sometimes people think that it's like feminist, and this is not what I'm trying to do at all. It's just
everybody has their unique talent, whether they're a man or a woman, and we're all people. So we have our place, regardless of who we are.
I was talking to the women in Little Big Town are some incredible women, and I was talking to them, and they had a song called "The Daughters," and you should listen to it if you haven't heard it yet. It like hit me like a ton of bricks, and we were talking about being a female and how so many times when we say something, we go, I was like, I'm sorry, but I feel like I deserve a raise. Take out the words I'm sorry. You know, and that, like, removing that, and like, I don't mean to be rude, but I feel this. Just go right to, I feel this. But unfortunately, still to this day, and we talk about that on the show a lot too, still to this day, people can say, she might be a little bit, Tracy can be maybe a little bit difficult. No, I'm not. I'm actually that little passive farm girl that through some experiences has gotten to the point where I'm taking out the I'm sorry, but, and I'm just going to say what I feel. If you feel this way about me, that's on you. That's some insecurity is on you. I don't have time for that. I'm raising kids. I have a job. I'm moving on with my day.
Yeah, and it's all about, once you hear other women do that, understanding that you can actually think about what you actually think. Because I feel like at this day and age, it's so crappy that we don't even know our opinion anymore. Because we're just following what other people say. We don't want to be, we don't want to be disliked. But once you know that you can say what you think, then you're like, what do I actually think about this?
You really can. You really can say what you think, and you can take out the I'm sorry's and the I don't mean to be rude, or I don't mean to be a blank, take all that out and just go for it. And it is incredibly liberating. But don't be surprised when people say those things about you still. But if people talk behind your back, they're behind you for a reason.
Exactly.
Like, just go.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and if they want to bash you, then that's their problem, and it is what it is. I love that. Well, and my follow-up question that you kind of already answered is, how do you hope to be empowering women with what you do? I mean, not just on the radio, but with the profession and the career to other women that work in the same career. You kind of already said that, but in general terms.
No, and I can elaborate on that a little bit too, because I don't want to, and I'm not only speaking to women that have a career. I'm, one of my best friends is a stay-at-home mom, so I want to make sure I'm speaking to every woman who is living her genuine life. Whatever you want to do, I hope that you hear through things that I say and opinions that I bring to the show, or points that I bring to the show, that if you're living your true, genuine life, that you can be happy in that. You can still speak your mind in that, and you can do everything that you hope to accomplish, whatever that may be, whether you're in a career or you don't want to be in a career,
I love the words that you use, genuine life, because I don't feel like most people are living their genuine lives, because they feel like they're supposed, the shoulds, right? This is what I should be doing. So they're actually living for other people, which makes them miserable. And they don't actually find the time to understand, what do I really like, or what is my opinion on this, because they feel like they can't have an opinion, or they have to follow somebody else's opinion. So
we get into that. We even talked about that on the show, because I got married so young. I got engaged at 19. And I got married at 21. I was a mom by 22. So all of a sudden, I talk very openly about that's what I should do. When I was that age, it was I have to get married. I have to do this. I have to do this. Thankfully, I say this in front of him, so there's why I can say it on the radio and the podcast. Thankfully, I truly ended up marrying the nicest human being in the entire world, he is 100% my soulmate. I will tell my boys, do not get married when you are 21, because you do not know who you are.
Right. You might not be as lucky.
So I should. I've been guilty of it for a long time. But luckily, the biggest one worked out completely. And I think it's because I've been able to have conversations with him about who I genuinely am. Because I used to do a radio show and leave right after the show and pick up my kids, and if my kids were sick, I got them. If they needed something, I got it. We are so much partners now in our relationship, because he was also a strong, confident man in saying, baby, I'll follow you where you, this is your passion. If you want to move to Denver, we're going to move to Denver. Let's make this amazing. We can live whatever life we want to together. So I think, too, to go away from even radio in your own life, having those conversations with your spouse and with your kids, and having your kids see you have those conversations with your spouse, because then they're going to go, oh, this is how you communicate when you get married. You can be completely honest with somebody.
Instead of just expecting or something from somebody else, or doing what you think they want you to do.
Yeah.
Just being super open across the board, right? Not just
Right.
on the radio, but in your family too. And I love that you said that you were not so outspoken before.
Yeah.
And now, because some people might think, well, it's easy for her to say. She's just, on the radio and she can say whatever she wants. But that's not the case at all.
Not the case at all.
I love that.
When I was a kid, honestly, I was the dorkiest looking child in the entire world. And my mom has old videos of like my sister yelling at me, being like, "You did that wrong, start over." And then I'm like, okay, like I just didn't even say anything. I was such a dork. But it's like, so it started from there. So you can get there.
Yes, you can get there. That's amazing. Well, how can we find you?
You can, so my Instagram is at TRACY DIXON Radio, which is where I live all of the time. Like, I'm on Insta all the time. And I think that's a great way, look at my life, too. I put a lot of stuff on Instagram. You can also find our page at the 98.5 KYGO Morning Show on Facebook, but we're very much more the Instagram.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Tracy. This was great.
Thanks for having me.
What a fun interview. I had such a great time learning more about her story and getting some insight about this industry. What did you think? Connect with Tracy and with me on social media or send me an email at martaspirk@gmail.com with your thoughts. Until next time, bye.